Green Lantern Dark number 4 is written by Tate Bromble with art by Werther Deladera, colors by Giovanna Nero, and letters by Tom Napolitano. The title of this issue is Chapter 4, Port Arbor. Green Lantern Rina Mori is walking back to the town of Lantern's Light from New Camelot along with Lunette, Cain, and Beast Boy. And Batman, apparently, or I suppose we're calling him Bat-Wraith, the disembodied ghost of an Arthurian knight that is this world's Batman. He's trying his best to convince Rina that she has the power to rid the world of all this darkness, if only she'd stop running away from her problems and start believing in herself. Bat-Wraith tells Rina about Deona, and says that while she didn't cause the planet to fall into this blighted state, she's been taking advantage of the situation. Deona harvests the agony of everyone struggling to live their lives in this cruel shadow of a once familiar world. We see it happen outright, as a family who can't take the pain and misery anymore make their way to Deona's sunny oasis, a place they call Providence, where they offer you comfort, not by alleviating your pain, but rather by giving your pain purpose. This place operates under the nihilistic view that you're always going to be suffering, so all that suffering may as well be put to good use. So you're led into the rapture pit and tortured 3 times a day, and supposedly that's what allows this pocket of sunshine to exist amidst the endless darkness, though that may be a lie. Maybe all of the emotional energy being gathered from these people is going to the gigantic worm thing that's apparently going to break the world apart, which we found out about last issue. Either way, Rina isn't interested in getting involved with anything Bat-Wraith is selling. She just wants to get these kids back home without running into any more catastrophes. Unfortunately, Beast Boy ate all their food. He hasn't spoken since uttering a few confused words after Rina freed his mind last issue. There's a funny bit where Lunette says his name is Gar, and Rina insists that no it isn't, he's just growling at her. I like that. I kinda wish they didn't confirm a little later that his name is in fact Garfield. Which is actually pretty significant, since unless I'm forgetting something, this is the very first example of a Tangent Comics character sharing a civilian name with their main DC Universe counterpart. Regardless, Beast Boy has his own reasons for keeping quiet, and Lunette keys into it pretty quickly. He went through a traumatic experience, and isn't ready to talk to people yet. Which is okay, because as Lunette says, sometimes it takes a long time to process feelings because we're just so busy surviving. Anyway, they're out of food, which means they've got no choice but to make a detour. Cain guides them to the nearby town of Port Arbor so they can replenish their supplies. It's honestly chilling to see this town's population scratched out, from 21,956 to just 956. Those feelings get worse when the gang discovers that Port Arbor is empty. Rina had just passed through here a few short weeks ago, and at that time this was a bustling town full of people. Now all that's left is quiet streets littered with overturned crates full of fish, implying that everyone left in a hurry, and empty strollers with the odd discarded pacifier, telling us that there is no innocence left in Port Arbor. Just then, Rina spots something off in the distance. 2 kids! Beast Boy reacts immediately, morphing into a monster and taking off in their direction. Rina follows, thinking that she has to protect those kids from what she believes to be a rampaging Beast Boy. The 2 come to an abrupt stop right in front of the children, and are stunned to realize that it's them. It's Rina and Garfield as children. The world begins to warp around them, and Green Lantern and Beast Boy start to relive their origin stories. Garfield was an innocent kid whose friends dared him to touch an Eclipso seed that crashed into the playground. He did it, and it warped him into a grotesque creature. Based on how young he looks in the flashback, Garfield's been carrying this trauma around for years. I'm not sure when he came under Deona's control, but there's a very real chance that the moment before he touched that rock was the last time he was fully himself until Rina used her powers to free him last issue. Speaking of Rina, we see her in all her Wednesday Addams glory storming out of the house after a fight with her parents, just in time for a green light to streak across the sky and crash in the nearby forest. Rina runs to check it out and finds what looks to be the body of the previous Green Lantern, burning as bright as the sun from the bottom of a fresh impact crater. Rina reaches out her hand, touches the light, and is consumed by it. While all that is going on in their heads, Rina and Gar's real bodies are just standing there in the middle of the street. A detail I really like is that the mental illusions actually started earlier than we would have thought. When Beast Boy ran towards the kids, he threw off the backpack he'd been wearing. But here they are, standing in the same spot as before, with Beast Boy still wearing his backpack. That means the dream actually started the moment Rina saw those two kids standing off in the distance. Lunette and Cain don't know what to do, and if there's one thing Lunette hates, it's feeling powerless. She screams at them to wake up, and this is the first time Lunette has ever actually called Rina by her name, instead of just Green Lantern, finally addressing her as the person she is instead of the symbol she's supposed to be. Nothing seems to be working. Not loud noise, not a bucket of water to the face. Nothing snaps them out of their trance. That's when the Bat Wraith makes his presence known to Lunette and Cain, and sheds some much needed light on the situation. With his limited magic, Bat Wraith reveals the pair of invisible parasites that have attached themselves to Green Lantern and Beast Boy. They're called Dread Leeches, and they feed on the agony of others. Sounds exactly like Deona, doesn't it? Bat Wraith says that if Rina actually knew what she was doing, she'd probably be able to free them both, but that's certainly not going to happen. So the only choice left is to let the Dream Leeches overeat to the point that they just die, which would normally kill the people they're feasting on, but the good guys have a secret weapon. The Dread Leeches feed on misery, and nobody in any universe does misery better than a Batman. Bat Wraith plunges his ghost hands right into the two Dread Leeches, allowing him to add his own emotions to the mix, while also communicating directly with Rina, who's still reliving one of the most terrifying moments of her life. A young Rina Mori finally summons the courage to open her eyes, only to scream in terror as she hovers a few feet above the ground in the shattered remains of what used to be a forest. She's glowing with an unearthly power, and there's no telling where she ends and the light begins. Bat Wraith tells her that the only path forward is to feed the parasite by allowing herself to feel the pain she's kept bottled up. But she still recoils in horror of what she knows is coming, what she knows happens next in this memory. We don't get to see it, but I have a feeling Rina loses her parents. Consider how much of this series has been about parents and their children being separated from each other, sometimes temporarily, sometimes not. How Grundy's horde killed Lunette and Cain's mother, and how Lunette has been projecting onto Rina as a surrogate. Or how the entire journey to New Camelot was all about the slim chance of reuniting kidnapped children with their parents. Or how this very issue started with a seemingly random family being dismantled, as two parents who've given up let their child be taken away while they become part of Deona's misery harvest. I think what Rina's afraid to face is the loss of her parents. Maybe they see her like this and run away in horror, abandoning her. Maybe they turn into monsters like so many other people have. Maybe they get too close and Rina's lack of control over her new powers kills them. Whatever the answer is, I bet it'll come out once Rina is face to face with Deona. Because like Bat Wraith says, your enemies will gladly wield your own pain against you, which is why you must wield it first. Green Lantern, Beast Boy, and the Bat Wraith all allow themselves to feel the pain that they'd much rather bottle up and run away from. Trauma like this is the kind of thing you can spend your entire life learning to deal with, which is an incredibly daunting task, but you can't hope to win if you turn your back and refuse to fight. Outside, Lunette remembers something her mom used to say. Feeling is the only way to survive. Ever since their mom died, Lunette has kept herself busy, constantly fixated on moving forward and getting things done. She never cried, and at times she thought she was broken, but the truth finally sets in. Lunette blames herself for her mother's death. If that wasn't bad enough, she saw the creature her mother became as she joined Grundy's horde. And as Lunette said herself earlier, sometimes it takes a long, long time to process feelings because we're just so busy surviving. The truth is, Lunette was too scared to confront her feelings, so she avoided them at all costs. That kind of avoidance can make things manageable in the short term, but all it really does is deny yourself the chance to properly recover. All of our emotions are necessary, even the unpleasant ones. And sometimes, fear can cause us to try to protect ourselves by rejecting those emotions, letting us pretend they're gone, like they've been drained away by a parasite. And Lunette finally lets herself feel it as she holds the hand of Rina, her surrogate. The dread leeches explode. Rina and Gar barely survive. In a surprising act of assertive defiance, Rina uses her powers to reveal everything in Port Arbor that's been hidden from their view. Suddenly they see the truth, that the town is filled with dread leeches, and the streets are littered with the withered corpses of the townspeople. Batwraith confirms this to be Deona's handiwork, and Rina is mad. She seems like she might actually want to proactively go after Deona, which is a massive change, although it makes sense considering what Deona just did to her. With the snap of a finger, Rina incinerates all of the dread leeches, and they continue the long walk home. But when they make camp for the night, we discover that Cain has actually been in communication with Deona this entire time. Earlier in the issue, there's a moment where Deona is off to the side, seemingly talking to herself, where she says, quote, "My dear sweet boy, you have my word, not a hair nor a thread." I think that was Deona promising Cain that she won't harm Lunette as long as Cain lures Rina into a trap. Because remember, it was Cain who led them to Port Arbor. And who knows, maybe Beast Boy didn't actually eat all of their food. As Cain lays in his sleeping bag, Deona speaks to him, and we see a vision of what it looks like when Deona's bright sunny persona begins to break. Her hair and hands are deep red as if soaked with blood. Her word balloons are outlined in heavy black lines with an added layer of orange like they're crackling with fire. Her eyes have both drifted off in unnatural directions as her head begins to split open, revealing a large insect-like appendage that reaches out and contorts its way over to Cain, wiping away his tears while feasting on his misery. Before we wrap up, I want to turn your attention to the very first page of this issue. I can't pretend to know what's going on in Tate Bromble's mind, but to me this page reads like a writer working out their feelings about living in North America in the year 2025. To quote page 1, "Bad things happen. Worlds quake. Hearts break. People die. Years pass like dazed dreams, but it all just keeps happening. Grief, agony, and fear, and endless torture. You can't even catch your breath in its meaningless stupor. Sometimes it can be so unbearable. You begin to wonder, what's the point? But when it becomes too hard to keep going, to put one foot in front of the other, to feed, to cry, to breathe, where then do you go?" It's been my experience that life in this part of the world feels like we've been running a non-stop marathon since early 2020. We're all physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted, and part of me understands how Deona could find so many willing volunteers. That's why media like this matters. Not only can it bring some sense of catharsis to the creative team, it also allows the audience, allows us, the ability to explore and interrogate our feelings about some heavy topics in a way that's safer and more comfortable than directly confronting our own demons. We can learn a lot about ourselves and the world we live in by reading and thinking critically. So I'm grateful to Tate Bromble for approaching the story this way, even if it turns out I'm misinterpreting it. And that's Green Lantern Dark number 4. What an issue. Now I want to hear your thoughts. What exactly do you think Deona is? What do you think of the way this issue handles trauma? Do you like this weird super team that's coming together? Tell me all about it in the comment section down below. Subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this one, and follow me on Blue Sky if you want more of my thoughts on comics in general. I'll be back soon with more, so until then, thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan, we'll talk again soon.